Good afternoon. This is Tales from a Nobody, and I am a nobody. I was chatting online on Twitter to a long-time Cranes fan called Lee Brown, lovely guy, and he asked me a few questions about Cranes. We've been friends on Twitter for quite a few years now, and he came to some shows, and I've met him, lovely guy. Anyway, he suggested, why don't you do some sort of podcast? He said, you've probably got loads of stories and whatever, and I've got a fair few. So I just thought, well, why not? Let's give it a shot. So we're going to start today with this guitar. This guitar here, this one, has done 2000 and then 2020. This is probably done every single Crane show for the best part of the last 30 years. It's a Washburn KC90, and it was bought around 1991. Jim bought two of them. It didn't look like this back then, but we'll get to that. Fantastic guitars. The KC range, the Washburn KC range, came in various models. They had 70s, the KC70, the KC40, 44, 40, 20, lots of them like that. But the KC90s, these ones, and the KC100s, they were a different breed of guitar. They were, all the others were, they were good guitars, the others, but they were Korean built. This one and the 100 was Japanese built guitar, different body, solid ash body, maple neck, rosewood fingerboard, Seymour Duncan pickups, really good pickups in there, and they were just they were the top of the range guitar for Washburn. And Jim bought two, so Matt and Mark both played one on lots and lots of shows, and Matt's one was immaculate. Mark's one, not quite so immaculate. So Jim bought these, and I chatted to Mark very briefly earlier, and we think it was before Wings of Joy. The new equipment came along just before Wings of Joy. So Jim used these guitars for Wings of Joy and Forever album, Loved. You can hear it all over the Loved album, all over those records. These guitars were used. If you've ever seen Cranes live when Mark played, you will understand the pain, joyous pain, I should add, that this guitar has been through, because Mark was a brutal player, brilliantly brutal. That is Jim Shaw, so we will take this live on air. Good day to you, Jim Shaw. You're live on air, Jim. On a Cranes podcast.
Oh my God! I'm sorry it took me so long to get back to you. I was being
No, he was at B&Q getting some wood. So just for all the viewers out there, I texted Jim earlier to ask when he actually got this guitar, but he was at B&Q, and he's back now, and hopefully, bated breath, will Jim remember when he bought the two Washburns? Jim, do you remember when you bought the two Washburns?
I believe it was in 1991.
91. See, I just said that. When you watch this, Jim, when it goes up online, I literally just said, I think Jim got these 91 for Wings of Joy-ish time.
It was late 91, so it almost, because I think the Cure Tour was rather early in 92, wasn't it?
Yeah, so Jim's saying the Cure Tour was rather early in 92.
It could have been the spurring on to buy a different guitar, because my old Ibanez got nicked when our lockup got broken.
I'm just getting to that bit of this guitar with the theft and the stolen. I've just outlined how Matt's guitar was immaculate, and Mark's guitar was not quite as immaculate due to his beautifully brutal playing. Yeah. So yeah, so but we were guessing, and I asked Mark earlier, and Mark thought it was 91 as well, and I did. So I thought, but it's Jim Shaw. Jim Shaw. I'm doing this cast about the Cranes. This is Jim Shaw. Jim Shaw is the Cranes, obviously, apart from Ali as well. We just merely tag along to try and bring his creations to life. But this is Jim Shaw telling me the news, so we have definitive answer now on the guitars. Jim, can I give you a ring back in a little bit?
Yeah, of course.
All right, I'll finish this podcast thing, and then I'll call you back.
Right, mate. B&Q, I meant I was in the queue.
Oh yeah, in the queue of B&Q, he was socially distancing himself and being, for once in his life, he's being completely safe. All right.
Dude, I'll speak to you soon.
All right, I'll give you a ring, Jim. Thanks, mate. Bye. Well, karmic timing there. All right, so let's skip on because we don't want this to be too long. So there was a lock-up, and all the equipment was stored in the lock-up, and the lock-up got broken into. And I don't think the thieves went through all the stuff. They just grabbed a load of stuff. And, of course, they grabbed one of the guitars, and it was Matt's, and they left Mark's. And Mark's was hammered. But, like I say, it was beautifully hammered. It was Mark's. Now, have you ever met Mark Franken? If you're a Cranes fan from a while ago, you'll know Mark. And Mark is a beautifully generous human being. This guitar, he would smash this guitar up every night on Starblow or something, and this guitar. This used to have two more pickups in there. There were two pickups in there. There's two frets missing off there, which I could have replaced when I put this back together, but I didn't want to replace it. I don't know. I just didn't want to do it. This tone control no longer goes anywhere. It's this pickup and this volume. That's what remains of this guitar. The reason I say Mark is beautifully generous is because several ways. A couple of times he dropped me completely in the deep end and said, "Oh, you know how to play this song, don't you, Paul? You can play it tonight." And he would and the very first time he did that, it was Adoration, which is piano, and I could play it, but it was really, really scary. But, other times I put this together so many times on tour buses that I learned a lot about guitar construction and getting it back to one show. It was in so many pieces. Mark had dug these two pickups out, and this fret was hanging out. I managed to put that back in, and then it got lost, and this trem was off. The guitar, everything was off, and it looked like it was smashed. And a member of the audience came up and he said, "Can I have it?" And what? Can you have what? He said, "The guitar." I said, No, you can't have the guitar. But it's smashed to pieces. I went, "Yeah, come to tomorrow night's show. It will be as good as new." When we toured America in '97, when we went from the East Coast to the West Coast, it was a long drive, 2-day drive, and I resprayed this in the hotel room. And Mark, it was all dried and lacquered again, and Mark had it back for the next show. Anyway, so Mark let me play parts, and I mean, a few people would say to Mark, "Oh, do you have to be so brutal?" And on the guy that drove the tour bus, his name was Tom. I don't know, Mark, do you remember Tom? Was saying, "Oh, he's up all every night," but I loved it. You couldn't inhibit the way Mark. That's the way Mark played. That's what Mark had fun on stage playing the songs, and if some of the equipment got beaten up, that's the way it was. So Yeah, that's this guitar. Now it was completely, as you see, it's sort of armoured now. Now it was completely black like this. Well, not those plates. Those plates were black as well, but it was a black, completely black guitar. And then when Mark moved on and didn't do cranes anymore, I stepped in and did all of the parts and inherited this guitar. Now this guitar, this whole part here where this thing goes in, this is all car body filler. All of this is car body filler. None of this here is wood. The wood starts about here. The wood starts about here. So all of this through here, all off of here, all around there, it's car body filler. And in the end, I got so fed up with air travel destroying equipment, I armour plated it. I cut these pieces of aluminium out and I cut them to shape, and I epoxy resin glued them on. I sprayed them and then put them on. And literally, when you hear people say hammered aluminium, this is hammered because I hammered it. You could actually see the hammer marks in it where I hit it with a hammer to get the. Oh, you can't see it. Let's get it in the light. Oh, there you go. Look, there's some hammer marks on there. And this guitar now, it should have an up pull on this trem, but it doesn't. It's locked down. It's so old and it's been through so many wars that it's now, there's no up pull on it because it will never go back. It will never float properly. Not really. And I don't blame it. As I say that, this is still an amazing guitar. And so I've kept it up. I armour plated it. And it has done every show that I did, and it did every show that Mark did from when it came along, I think. And it recorded a lot of records. Jim recorded a lot of records with this guitar. Jim has now got another one of these because I tracked one down and rebuilt it and gave it to him. And that's the story of this guitar. It's fallen downstairs. It's been left in taxis. It's fallen out of flight case. It's everything that's happened to this guitar. It survives. It plays. It's a lovely guitar. I'll never part with it. Jim can't have it back. It's mine now. He's all right with that. But it does it's played some classic Crane songs like I can't remember how to play it. It's done some classic Cranes recordings. I think it suits Jim's playing well. He has good use of the whammy bar and things like that. What else have we got in the old pedal board? No. Oh yeah, stuff like this. Mark will remember this, but. Fuse, stuff like that. Forgive me if I play wrong notes. I haven't played any of this stuff for years. I never even played this one live, but it was programmed in. We rehearsed it a few times and never got to it. But this is classic Forever Sound. Song, the simplicity of Jim's writing, but Jim doesn't think in terms like this. But you'll go in. He doesn't. He hears something in his head and he plays it, and it's great. But because I'm a real nerd for working stuff out and making sure I know where I am when I play them, that's sort of a D minor, and then he goes to was sort of going. And the whole song rims around that. That's what the second chord. I don't even know what that D. It's something like D suspended with a flattened fifth. It's a really weird chord. If you said, Jim, play a D suspended second with a flattened fifth, you go, I have no clue what you're talking about. Go, well, you know, that's Golden and that's Jim. Some of the old songs. Heaven or Bliss. You have to be careful playing that because Jim actually played it with. I haven't got a slide. Can I mimic a slide? Jim played that with a slide on the record, but I didn't have. When he decided we were going to play that song, I didn't have a slide, so I had to be really careful not to bend that note too much because Jim would kill me. Don't bend the note too much. So I had to try and make it sound like it was. Just bend it up a quarter note or something. It's weird. I should have just learned to do it with a slide and then played it with a slide. But there's other parts in that take the slide on, put it back on, and I couldn't do it. Again, I don't know if he played that on the record. Jewel, he definitely played the distorted bit in Jewel. That was done on this guitar. I don't know what that is. Again, Forever, you had stuff like stuff like that. That's classic Forever, all done on this. You get that. Another really interesting progression from Jim. That's it. It's like an weird altered scale or something, but you know, brilliant. Utter brilliance. What else have we got? And then I'd program little patches on this so that if something else went wrong, if something went wrong on stage, something always goes wrong on stage. But if something went wrong on stage, I would program little patches so I could do, if it wasn't me that had to fix something, I could do an interlude, some interlude of something. So people think, this is an intro to song, they're going to do this on the album, but it was just so that something could get fixed, and someone go, that's fixed now, and they go, right, and I could just stop, and I would just jam something like something that we probably weren't playing in the set, something like a. I don't know. I didn't go through any of this stuff before I started doing this, just making stuff up as I go along. But we'd have little patches like that. That was actually the clean sound for Pale Blue Sky, but you could do some nice things with it if you needed to. If you needed to do something. So really, that's the sort of history of how this guitar came to do loads of shows, how it fitted into Cranes, how it's been around for a long time, and it's still going strong. I often use it on recordings. It tunes to E flat, and I leave it in E flat. In Cranes, the guitar's all tuned down one semitone. And that's the way I leave it. And that is how this Washburn guitar you hear on lots and lots of Cranes records. Not after Loved, really, because I had it after that, and Jim had got some other guitars. But newer stuff, he's now got one of these again, and it's got the bar on it, and it actually functions properly on his one. So we never know if we're going to hear that again. So I hope people found that interesting. If there are any questions, if there are anything you want to know Cranes wise, put them in the comments, and maybe I'll do some more of these. If there's any interest in them, I can do them on just stories on keyboard sounds and how they translate from record to live, because I would put a lot of that stuff together. Instruments, playing, chords, fingers, anything really, put them in the comments, and maybe I'll do another one if there's any interest. Tales from a Nobody. I am a nobody.